It is not new information that YNW Melly has been in hot water for years with the possibility of a death sentence hanging over his head. Things couldn't be more serious, but it's his recent footage that's really raised some eyebrows and gone viral, especially because of how he looked. Yes, the man needs an appointment with a barber, but that's not what is getting fans worried about this viral footage. Let's get into the details. YNW Melly appears in court. So let's rewind to February 2019. Florida rapper YNW Melly, whose real name is Jamal Demons, gets arrested and slapped with 2 counts of first-degree murder. The police say Melly and his friend YNW Band aka Corland Henry did the unthinkable. They allegedly murdered their own friends and tried to stage the scene like a drive-by shooting. Yeah, you heard that. Right, folks? This is some serious next-level drama. Fast forward to June 2023, Melly's back in the spotlight. Not for a new track, but for his high-stakes trial. He pleads not guilty, standing firm on his innocence, but in a dramatic twist, the judge declares a mistrial, but that is not the end of the case, though. Melly heads back to court this fall, and if he's found guilty, he could be looking at the death penalty before. Fall, the man finds himself back in court for his latest appearance, where he smiles as he usually does for the cameras. However, it was this moment during his last year's trial that has gained attention online. He appears to be praying and then blows a kiss. The mother of one of the victims found it disrespectful and walked
out because I don't what you praying for, because you sitting over there like you don't got no remorse. Like every time I walk in, you smiling. You know, this ain't the time for that. This case is sad. This is serious.
Recently, his attorneys have filed a motion to exclude certain phone conversations from the courtroom. These conversations between YNW Borland Melly's co-defendant and his girlfriend, Juna Molina, deemed irrelevant by the defense, according to court documents obtained by Hip Hop DX. The defense argues that the chats are mere small talk with no significant value to the trial and should be considered inadmissible hearsay, thus not used against their client. Let's talk about Melly's current situation. He's been moved from Broward County Jail to the Paul Rain Detention Center in Pompano Beach, Florida. This maximum security spot keeps a close eye on inmates with a limited movement and visitation through a non-breakable window using a built-in phone. It's definitely a tougher environment. Back in January, Judge John J. Murphy III was honest about pushing this trial forward. He declared that Melly's retrial for the alleged murders of YNW Sack Chaser and YNW Juvie would start on March 5th. As soon as the case could be heard, the judge is clearly tired of the delays, noting Melly's been locked up for over 50 days awaiting trial. As of now, the trial still hasn't kicked off. This is some high-stakes drama that's got everyone on edge, especially with the potential for the death penalty on the table. This kid from G Ford, Florida was blowing up just a month before all this went down. 19-year-old Melly dropped his mixtape, We All Shine, featuring none other than Kanye West, and his track Murder on My Mind had just hit gold by January 2022. It's certified 6 times multi-platinum in October 2018. Melly and his crew, YNW Sack Chaser, YW Juvie, Christopher Thomas Jr., and YNW Borland were all chilling at a recording studio. Later that night, Williams and Thomas are found dead. Horton drives them to the hospital, claiming it was a drive-by shooting. Suspicious, right? Especially since Melly and Borland showed up in a music video the next day. Nothing happened. Jump to February 13th, 2019. Melly's arrested and the charges are heavy. The cops say Melly pulled the trigger and Borland tried to cover it up if convicted. Melly could be looking at life behind bars or even the death penalty. Melly, though, stays strong on social media, claiming his innocence and saying, unfortunately, a lot of rumors and lies are being said, but no worries. God is with me, though. That post got deleted later. Melly's been facing some serious charges, but it seems like nothing's bringing his spirit down since his arrest. He's been getting mad love and support from the hip-hop community. One big name showing love is Atlanta's very own Future on Melly's 20th birthday. Future hit up Instagram with a heartfelt shout-out, posting "Free my little brother Melly" on his story. YNW Sack Chaser's family, on the other hand, are adamant that Melly is in. They made a statement to TMZ claiming that they will fully back the state's decision. Whatever it may be, their representative had some strong words, saying, if the state of Florida feels the death penalty is warranted in this case, then we 100% fully support it. YNW Melly should feel the exact fear and panic he so viciously and consciously brought upon his innocent victims. Woo, that's some heavy stuff. Evidence against him during the initial trial pulled out some digital receipts to claim that Melly confessed using an ENSD. Staygram exchange between Melly and Pay Gambino on October 26, 2018. Pay asked if Melly was okay. Melly allegedly responded, "I did that." Melly's defense attorney Stuart Adelstein tried to poke holes in this by showing that Melly usually spelled as that in his messages. Prosecutor Christine Bradley countered this by showing that Melly did use the conventional spelling in some messages, and even in his song Melly Fixed, that they also claimed that the shots came from inside the car surveillance Footage captured Melly and his crew hopping into a Jeep before the fatal shooting, when the police found the vehicle hours later. Williams and Thomas were dead from gunshot wounds. Ballistic analysis suggested that the shots were fired from inside the car, specifically from where Melly was seen sitting, although the gun was never found. No gunpowder residue was discovered on Melly. This evidence pointed towards an internal shooting rather than a drive-by.
And my determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting, and it's based upon this picture here, which is a very good picture to describe it. The shooter is at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in.
At some point, the prosecution brought in gang expert Danny Polo to testify about Melly's alleged affiliation with the G-Shine Bloods. Polo claimed Melly was deeply involved, knowing all the signs and using gang lingo in his messages.
And what does herc mean?
Herc is a term used by members of G-Shine to refer to each other. It's like calling each other bro or dude, same thing.
The state presented photos and text to back up these
claims, suggesting that the murders might have been gang-related, although the exact benefit to the gang wasn't detailed. The state then used phone records to map the movements of Melly and band. Phones on the night of the murders. FBI Special Agent Brendan Collins showed that the phones ping near the crime scene. Though he couldn't definitively place them together at every moment, Miramar Police Detective Mark Moretti confirmed that no. Devices appeared directly at the crime scene due to Mee's phone having its location. Services turned off, however. Surveillance footage helped trace Melly's movements, including when he was picked up by rapper Fredo Bang after the incident BSO DNA. Analyst Kurt RHS tested various items found in the Jeep, like a water bottle and a spent shell casing, but none matched Melly's DNA conclusively. However, DNA that may have been Melly's was found on the rear passenger side door handle where the shots were believed to have been fired from. In a bold move, Florida prosecutors plan to introduce a whole bunch of YNW Melly's lyrics evidence in his upcoming retrial. According to the Miami Herald, Broward County prosecutor Alexander Buckaloo filed a court document on Wednesday listing an impressive array of Melly's work. They want to admit we're talking 55 songs, 18 audio files, 14 YouTube videos, and 4 album covers. Among these pieces of evidence is Melly's biggest hit, Murder on My Mind. This track, which has been a massive hit and is often seen as eerie. Given the circumstances could play a significant role in the prosecution's case, the state is aiming to use these lyrics to shed light on Melly's state of mind and potential motives. Using rap lyrics as evidence in criminal trials isn't a new tactic, but it's definitely a controversial one. These lyrics can't be the sole basis for a conviction, but they can be highly prejudicial. Jurors might be swayed by pre-existing biases. Often racially motivated against rappers, this can lead them to make up their minds based on stereotypes rather than hard evidence. Take the YSL RICO indictment, for example. Prosecutors used Young Thug's lyrics to implicate him in 10 different overt acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. This case highlights the tricky line between artistic expression and real-life crime. It's a tactic that's been criticized for unfairly targeting hip-hop artists, Young Thug, Gunna, and over 2 dozen. Associates from the Young Slime Life YSL label and artist collective faced a major indictment on gang-related charges last May. The 88-page grand jury indictment labeled YSL as a criminal street gang and detailed 182 acts, including members wearing clothing or accessories with slime to further the conspiracy. Individual charges range from murder and attempted robbery to aggravated assault with a weapon. Georgia prosecutors also accused all 28 defendants of violating the racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations act by engaging in a pattern of illegal activities to acquire money and property controversially. Rap lyrics from Grammy-nominated musicians, including a posthumous Juice WRLD single, are being used as evidence of the 28. Defendants 6, including star Young Thug, are set to stand trial. The trial began on November 27th in Atlanta and is expected to last most of the year. This isn't the first time rap lyrics have been introduced in court. In 2012, a Louisiana judge allowed some lyrics from 187 in Boo's murder trial. When Bobby Shmurda faced gang-related charges in 2014, his hit Hot was heavily scrutinized, though not formally cited as evidence. I'm guilty for where I live. Shmurda told Vulture, I was never part of no gang. In 2019, prosecutors used lyrics from the late Drow the Ruler to accuse him of murder. That same year, 6ix9ine's lyrics were brought up during his gang-related trial. Although Bowie and Dre the Ruler were acquitted, critics argue that using rap lyrics as evidence can unfairly sway juries and disproportionately impact black and brown defendants. defendants when Maryland's highest court ruled in December 2020 that rap lyrics could be used in a murder trial. Veteran attorney Dina Liat told Variety that the decision was blatantly racist and set a dangerous precedent. Last year, Jay-Z and other prominent artists supported Senate Bill S. 527, New York bill known as Rap Music on Trial, which aims to acknowledge rap as RDIC expression and limit the use of lyrics in criminal cases. Proposed legislation argues that using rap lyrics in court turns trials into instruments for suppressing provocative speech and undermines the principle that a case should be judged on facts, not on perceived propensity to commit a crime. Bill passed in committee in late January and is currently up for a Senate and Assembly vote state. Senator Brad Hillman, who sponsored the bill, told Fox 5 News.
No one ever thought that Johnny Cash was going to shoot a man in Reno just to watch him die, or Bob Marley shot a sheriff but spared a deputy. But that's exactly what prosecutors are trying to convince juries about across this country.
The legislation unveiled in November 2020 took a significant step forward on Tuesday, October 12, 2021, successfully passing through the Senate Codes Committee, marking its initial move toward a full Senate vote. Jay-Z has also lent his voice into this issue. His lawyer, Alex Spio, has said, "This is an issue that's important to Jay-Z and all the other artists that have come together to try to bringing about this change. This is a long time coming. Mr. Carter is from New York, and if he can lend his name and his weight, that's what he wants to do." Jay-Z's lawyer, Alex Spiro, a partner at Quinn Emanuel Cart and Sullivan, told Rolling Stone. Spiro co-wrote the letter with University of Richmond professor Eric Nielsen, who authored Rap on Trial. With University of Georgia law professor Andrea Dennis Spiro, noted that he and Jay-Z, who previously fought for racial diversity in arbitration panels, leading to national reforms, view the proposed legis as a bellwether that could influence other states by changing the law. Here you do a lot of good for the cases that it affects, but you also send a message that progress is coming. We expect it will be followed in a lot of places. Spio said Fat Joe also voiced his support, telling Rolling Stone back in 2022, "Our lyrics are a creative form of self-expression and entertainment. Just like any other genre, we want our words to be recognized as art rather than being weaponized to get convictions in court. I hope the governor and all the lawmakers in New York take our letter into consideration, protect our artistic rights, and make the right decision to pass this bill before his tragic murder in 2021. Los Angeles rapper Drow Ruler experienced this practice firsthand. Despite being acquitted in the 2016 murder of a 24-year-old man, Drow spent 3 years in prison as prosecutors built their case around lyrics from his song Flex Freestyle. Although investigators agreed he didn't pull the trigger, they used his lyrics to argue he brought armed associates to target another rapper, RJ, who wasn't even at the party. I didn't even think they could do that. Caldwell Drow said, "I heard about them doing it before, but it was just the way they were doing it, how they were using it. Against me, it didn't make no sense. It was just crazy." Senator Bailey stated that the new bill aims to prevent such practices in New York by requiring a strong factual nexus between the art and the facts of the case, rather than allowing creative expression to form the basis of a criminal theory. Presuming a defendant's guilt based solely on musical genre or creative expression is antithetical to our foundational rights and perpetuates the systemic racism embedded in the criminal justice system through discriminatory conflations of hip-hop and WRA with criminality, Bailey said in a statement. Tuesday, 750 days in awaiting trial, the case against YNW Melly appeared strong, but the wheels of justice were slow to turn pre-trial proceedings, dragged on with Melly's legal team pushing for his release on bond. The prosecution vehemently opposed, citing the severity of the charges and the potential risk of flight. The judge sided with the prosecution, and Melly remained incarcerated, his future hanging in the balance. Why the delay? The complexity of the case, coupled with the meticulous gathering of evidence, contributed to the postponement of the trial. COVID-19 further complicated matters, causing widespread delays and disruptions in court systems across the country. YNW Melly continued incarceration without trial has become a point of contention and a topic of heated discussion. Supporters rallied for his release, while others pointed to the seriousness of the charges as justification for his detention. The legal issues share a lot of similarities with the case of Timur Trayvon McIntyre, known as Tyke, whose own legal troubles became a cautionary tale of a young artist's potential and pitfalls. Still not sure how that matters. Let me take you through a small digression of what happened to Tyke. In July 2016, Tyke was arrested and charged with capital murder for his involvement in the home invasion. Due to his age, he was placed under house arrest while awaiting trial. However, TK had no intention of staying confined. On March 27, 2017, Tyke cut off his ankle monitor and his escape turned into a nationwide manhunt, and Tyke documented his life on the run through social media and his music. During his time as a fugitive, TK traveled across several states, evading law enforcement and continuing his criminal activities. While on the run, Tyke was involved in another murder on April 23, 2017 in San Antonio, Texas. Tyke allegedly participated in the robbery and shooting of 23-year-old Mark Anthony Salivar. Witnesses reported that Salivar had been arguing with Tyke and his associates over a drug deal before being shot and killed. This incident added another murder charge to T's already extensive criminal record during his time as a fugitive. To release the song The Race, which detailed his life on the run and his defiance of the law. The song, accompanied by a video showing TK posing next to his own wanted poster, quickly went viral. The Race became a symbol of his rebellious lifestyle and garnered millions of views, thrusting Tyke into the spotlight. The track's success, however, also highlighted the grim reality of his crimes and the victims left in their wake. TK's run from the law ended on June 30, 2017, when he was captured by U.S. Marshals in Elizabeth, New Jersey. His arrest brought an end to a tumultuous period that had captured national attention. However, his legal battles were far from over. In July 2019, TK was found guilty of murder and 3 counts of aggravated robbery related to the 2016 home invasion. He was sentenced 55 years in prison, murder of Ethan Walker, and additional years for the robbery charges. Later in November 2019, he was indicted on a capital murder charge for the death of Mark Salivar. If convicted, Tyke could face the death penalty or life imprisonment without parole. Prosecutors are adamant that if they let him leave, they will have another Tyke situation on their hands. The prolonged pre-trial detention of YNW Melly has caused a lot of public debate and media coverage, with many questioning our fare. The justice system is, the rapper's case has been the go-to case when people talk about the issues surrounding pre-trial incarceration, especially when it has to do with cases involving high-profile defendants and serious charges for Melly. The extended time behind bars without a trial has had significant implications. Legally, it has afforded his defense team more time to build a robust case, but personally, it has meant enduring the harsh realities of incarceration and the mental toll that comes with uncertainty. The delay has also impacted his career, putting a halt to touring, recording, and other professional opportunities that could have flourished during this time. Public response to Melly's situation has been mixed. His fans have rallied behind him, launching social media campaigns, petitions, and hashtags like #FreeMelly, calling for his release in a fair trial. They argue that the justice system is punishing him prematurely without a conviction, and that he should be granted bond while awaiting trial. Conversely, critics of Melly point to the severity of the charges and the potential danger he could pose to the community. If released, they cite the need for justice for the victims and their families, emphasizing that the safety of others must be a priority. The media has played a significant role in shaping the narrative around Melly's case. News outlets and true crime podcasts have delved into the details of the charges, often drawing comparisons to other high-profile cases, such as that of T. The sensational nature of the allegations, combined with Melly's celebrity status, has made the case a fixture in tabloid headlines and online discussions. The fear is that if Melly were to be released on bond, there is a risk, however small, that he could attempt to flee or engage in further criminal activity. This concern is amplified by the notoriety and influence that come with his status as a successful artist. Judge's decision to deny bond reflects a desire to mitigate these risks and prevent a repeat of the Tyke scenario. Implications of Melly's prolonged detention extend beyond his individual case. It has sparked discussions about the balance between the rights of the accused and the need to protect the community. Advocates for criminal justice reform have used Melly's case to highlight the broader issues of bail reform and the conditions of pre-trial detention facilities as the legal proceedings inch forward. The court of public opinion remains divided. Melly's supporters continue to clamor for his release, while others stand firm in the belief that the seriousness of the charges justifies his continued incarceration. The media continues to follow every development, feeding the public's insatiable appetite for the latest twist in this ongoing legal saga. Judicial considerations are heavily influenced by the nature of the charges against Melly. First-degree murder is among the most serious charges in the criminal justice system, often carrying the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty. In such cases, judges are more inclined to deny bond due to the perceived risk of flight and the potential threat to public safety if the accused were to be released. Another factor at play is the strength of the prosecution's case. If the evidence against the accused appears strong and suggests a high likelihood of conviction, the court may deem it necessary to keep the individual in custody. This is particularly true if there are concerns that the defendant could influence witnesses' tamper with evidence or commit further crimes if not detained. The strategy behind denying bond also involves the concept of leverage by keeping Melly in custody. The prosecution may be able to apply pressure, potentially leading to a plea deal or cooperation. With the investigation, this tactic is often used in high-stakes cases where the prosecution seeks to secure a conviction without the unpredictability of a jury trial. The potential impact on the trial itself is significant. Pre-trial detention can affect the defendant's ability to participate in their defense actively. Being in jail limits Melly's communication with his legal team, access to resources, and ability to gather supportive evidence. This can create a sense of urgency for the defense to expedite the trial, which may or may not work in their favor. Public perception is another critical element, influencing judicial decisions in high-profile cases like Melly's. The court is acutely aware of the scrutiny it faces from the media, and the public. Granting bond to an individual accused of a heinous crime can lead to public outcry and a perception that the justice system is not taking the charges seriously enough. Conversely, denying bond can be seen as a commitment to justice and public safety, albeit at the risk of being viewed as punitive before a guilty verdict is reached. But about 1,500 mil east towards California, Knight was given bond under similar charges. Knight's defense team, led by attorney Thomas Mazzero, presented several arguments to support their request for bond. They emphasized Knight's health issues, including blood clots and other medical conditions, which they argued were not being adequately treated in jail. Additionally, they asserted that Knight posed no flight risk given his strong ties to the community and family in the area. The defense also stressed the financial burdens Knight faced, claiming that his inability to work while incarcerated was leading to severe financial hardship. They argued that Knight needed to be free to help manage his legal affairs and business interests. The prosecution strongly opposed granting a bond to Knight. They highlighted his extensive criminal history, which included charges of assault, robbery, and previous instances of violent behavior. Prosecutors argued that Knight's release would pose a significant threat to public safety, given his alleged involvement in violent crimes. They also contended that Knight had a history of intimidating witnesses and obstructing justice, suggesting that his release could compromise the integrity of the trial. The prosecution painted a picture of Knight as a dangerous individual with a propensity for violence, making a strong case against his release on bond. After hearing arguments from both sides, the judge ultimately set Knight's bond at $25 million. This amount was one of the highest bonds in California history and reflected the court's assessment of Knight as a high-risk defendant. Knight's legal team argued that the bond was excessive and effectively denied him the possibility of relay. Despite the high bond amount, Knight's legal team attempted to reduce it. In subsequent hearings, the bond was lowered to $10 million, still a substantial sum. Ultimately, Knight was unable to post bond and remained in custody throughout his trial. Now back to Melly's case. Regardless of what you think is the reason Melly has not been freed, there seems to be no end in sight for this case. That brings us to the end of this video. For more videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.